I often make a statement, and I say it over and over again, but it's nothing new at all. And the statement goes like this: a lot of times people can't see the forest for the trees. And it's been in my heart, if you've listened to me any length of time, because I'm sincerely am concerned. I'm concerned about what I see, what I perceive, and what I know to be true. And that truth is, we already know that America is on a decline. Matter of fact, it ain't no decline, it's plummeting, and it's going to fall soon. And most people get upset at me when I talk like this. And when I talk like this, they get mad because they want their fairy tale, their utopia to continue. But I'm a realist. I know history. I understand history. I study history. And when I continue to keep telling us over and over again that we are actually repeating the same mistakes as Rome did, and we're destined for doom in this culture right here, in this particular cultural society we live in, and this particular construct that's been given to us. And of course, I often say that if you want to survive in this, then you're going to have to make changes yourself, because with the government backing feminism, and also with the government playing the surrogate father to a lot of these children, and then at the tune of the melanated people aborting 900 babies a day, and then everybody getting giddy about abortion laws being passed, as if the murder of the innocents is something to be gleefully joyful about. The decadence, the moral decay, the spiritual bankruptcy, and the outright disrespect for what I would call what is naturally lawful. It's the destruction is all but here. And if you mention patriarchy, you might as well just uncuss somebody out. And no matter how much, I'll give you a few facts here. If you tell, for instance, every single society, you can go back to the first empire, the greatest empire that man has ever known, which is the Egyptian Empire. It was a patriarchal rule, such in Babylon, patriarchal rule. The Assyrians, patriarchal rule. The Persians and the Medes, patriarchal rule. You had the Greeks and the Romans. They started off with patriarchal rule, but they quickly ended up in feminism. And when they ended up in feminism, we watched their society just get destroyed fast. It didn't take them long. And now we're watching the West. When I say the West, I mean all European societies. We're watching a very serious decline on all of them. I can, you think about it. The majority of the leaders in the West, and let's go with Germany, Angela Merkel. We go with that French prime minister who's married to a woman that can't even bear seed. And you look all across Europe. All across Europe, you have leaders that can't have children. And children, but before I go that route, let's go this way. When I talk about a patriarchal society, I'm talking about a society that is ruled and dominated by men, because men are the builders of society. If a village comes and raids your village, or if somebody from another country comes and rage and wages war with your country, the women are not going to be out there with the swords, the shields, and the guns fighting on the front lines in order to preserve what we call freedoms and liberties. And that's just true throughout history. The way that this whole entire world was designed, notice I said was designed, is that men have the rule, men are in authority, women are charged to submit to their husbands, and men are designed to protect the woman. And the center focus of every civilization is the rearing and upbringing of the children. Now, when you're aborting, and especially if you're in the melanated community, most people don't know what that means. Well, I'm just going to use the term loosely, black community, and you see 900 babies being murdered every single day. And then you're watching, what was his name that got up there? And he was a senator. He said, I've done my part. And he flat out stood up in front of the American public and said, we need to have more babies. And the reason why he's saying that is because with the advent of all these different alternative lifestyles, we're watching the birth rate literally plummeted. You know, let's say if you have a husband and you have a wife, right? And let's just use those terms, okay? And let's say they only have one child. You have not even broken even in order to bring up the mortality rate in a society. And with most people opting out not to have children at all and choosing careers over the actual population, we are watching all this agenda that has been planned for a long, long time ago, which is to help reduce the population down to like 500 million people. It's all coming to pass. Every single thing that we had at one time believed to be true, and every single thing that we wanted to continue to keep going forward with, they're being before they even really truly form good in the womb, they're already being terminated. And now we're watching a complete, total upside down and a complete 100% turnabout from what I know to be right based on what I've read in history and my experience of today. I'm watching this paradigm shift, and I can truly say that in this world we have gone from bad to worse, and then what's the next stage after worse? It's just a sad situation all the way around the block. And of course, now when you start talking like this, the first thing that you do is you got the women get all upset. And you can tell feminism, or you can tell feminists nowadays. It took me some time to figure it out because they have different codes. They're the ones who, color their hair purple, pink, orange, green. We're just as good as any man model and all this whole other stuff. But I wonder what we're going to do here in America when these foreign entities come that are patriarchal, that's going to run roughshod all through this particular country. I wonder if those same feminists are going to be crying for a man to protect them, crying for a man to guard them, because ultimately what's going to take place is that when these other nations come and we're not prepared, they're going to kill all the weak. And they're going to terminate a lot of people. And it's going to be brutal. And they're going to take the desired women that they want. They're going to beat them into submission. They're going to impregnate them, and they're going to demand and command that their children be raised after their culture. And of course, I know right now that I sound like somebody that's done literally lost my mind. I'm out of touch and all this other stuff. But again, if you have not spent the midnight oil and burned the oil to study history and to know history, and to know what happens when a society is truly in decline, and if you have no vision except the only thing that you have is the thoughts that rise up in your mind, the thoughts that you can conjure up in your mind, or the things that you feel that you say is truth, but yet and still when the burden of proof is laid upon you, you can't bring forth any facts. They're all assumptions and assertions. Then what is going to be the little solution then? Because everything that I see is totally contrary to what I know to be true. I mean, hot is still hot. Cold is still cold. Water is still wet. And fire, it burns. I know these concepts are eroding. Believe me, I get it. And I know they're going to be challenged at every single end. Believe me, I get it. Because I see what's happening right now. Not only are they trying to dumb us down to an unprecedented level by making us somewhat a challenge, mind-drooling, mindless minion of society. But man, I think that they're trying to dumb us down to the point that it's easy to exterminate someone who actually uses rational thinking. And believe it or not, I'm even marveling myself how I can literally do this particular video right here and be somewhat correct, and I could use the term politically correct, and say things that you know exactly what I mean. But I sure am glad I have my Pateron account, because over there I got freedom of speech. So what I do is I use this particular platform as a tool to get the real message out to those who really want to be able to see the forest for the trees, and those who still believe that water is wet, and those who still believe that you can get burnt by fire. Those logical, rational thinking people right there, you welcome over to my platform to hear everything I got to say, because I'm telling you right now, society as we know it, it's gone. So the only thing is left now is self-preservation and preservation of those who eyes are wide open. They've been unplugged from the matrix and they get it. Because if you're looking for this society, this world right here to agree with you concerning what is morality, what are values, what are ethics, you can forget it. Because these things are subject to change just like the weather.